Welcome everyone to the November Finance and Performance meeting, and welcome to anyone watching online. And also I'd like to welcome this morning to our new DM services, Leanne McDonald. And I'd just like to take the opportunity for you to introduce yourself.
Morena, good morning. So as you've all heard, I'm Leanne. I feel like I've returned home to my roots. Born in Wanganui. Manawatu is very much our home for my husband Noel and I, and we laughingly say we did a 5-year OE in the South Island, and it was a great place to go and live for 5 years and get to know the beauty of the South Island. And it is a beautiful place, but it is just such a nice place to come home, back home to Manawatu, and to feel that we're with the people that us, and we didn't realise how much it meant until you start having conversations with people, and there's these connections that you just take for granted, and it is truly a blessing to be home amongst our family and friends. So really excited to spend the last 3 weeks here at Rangitikei District Council. Great place to be, great feel, great group of people, and I'm excited to spend some time with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, welcome. Now, can we please all stand, and Councillor Long stand. Councillor Korea.
Almighty God, as members of the Rangitikei District Council, we give thanks for all the good things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities in the district we represent. Help us to be fair and honest in our discussions, and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all our people. Amen.
So I received an apology from Mrs. Leanne Hiroti, and move that be accepted. To have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Carter. All those in favour?
Could I just flag it? I may have to leave at times for short periods of the day, very for short periods. So I apologise that I have to leave the room.
Okay. Against? Carried. No public forum this morning. Item number 4 is conflict of interest declarations. So as per normal, either make a declaration now or during a discussion, please. Confirmation of order of business is as per the order paper. And there's no new items to add. Confirmation of previous minutes.
I attended that meeting.
Thank you.
Not on the list.
Thank you. So we call for any other amendments or matters arising. Page 6. Page 7. 8. 9. 10 and 11. Move it and second to confirm those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Morn. Seconded, Councillor Loudon. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Move on to the shortened current follow-up actions. Can I ask that they be received? Thank you, Councillor Sharland. Seconded, Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Carried. Any discussions here? Councillor Loudon.
I'm just pleased this item's closed.
Thank you very much. I don't think you'll be alone in that.
I would just like to think that we're going to be welcoming a huge number of new people to the district.
Okay. So, item number 8 is the chair's report. I've got nothing significant to add to our order paper this morning. Just want to mention my concern around the significant level of carryovers and how that could impact going forward. And we look forward to the new team and how this is reviewed and handled, you know, by the new team and we'll go forward. But I don't think it's a good thing to have such a significant amount being carried forward. So, happy to move that comment, if I have to. Seconded, please. Councillor Loudon. All those in favour? Item number 9 is reports for information. Thank you, Leanne. Over to you.
And I'll just bring Lorraine up to the table, as Lorraine is our author on this. I just want to explain quickly the second version of the report. The 4 numbers were still correct. It was just we were having trouble with our finance package magic, converting the percentages, flipping them to negatives when we wanted positive and vice versa. So we just wanted to lay it out a bit as correct as we could. So with that, I'll hand it over to Lorraine.
So this is providing the committee members with the council's management accounts and commentary. Any questions? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Just jumping through to group financial summary reports, item 3.2 personnel costs. We've had it indicated to us that with the integration of the shared services team coming back to us, early indications are that there may have been some cost savings to that. Without specifics, are cost savings still likely to be achieved when you put your budget lines into the appropriate cost savings? It had been indicated that there would be some savings. I just wonder if that's looking to be reflected at some stage in the future.
Through the chair, we're working our way through that at the moment. We're just doing what we call a revised budget, which will include the carry forwards and the conversion of personnel into our actual spend. You can already see that we're ahead of spend year to date on our personnel, but offsetting that is other expenses, and that is our consultant costs, which was MDC. But how that pans out for the full year, I can't confirm that quite yet, but we are working on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I might just make a comment. There's going to be a disconnect between the salaries at the moment and the actual payments, because a lot of the money that we would have paid to MDC are still distributed across other GLs, and we still need to shift them into the salaries GL. Once we've done that, we should actually see the positive impact of what we've done. It's just sort of work in progress. Thank you. That's it. So that's the reason.
And just to add, I think we still have that driver as to try to get a fixed amount as to what was saved. I know it's complex and we're working our way through it, but we did indicate that we would give that at some stage.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Anyone else got anything they'd like to? Councillor Wong?
On page 19, under sustainability, council does not have any derivatives. We were informed of the interest rate swaps a few months ago, and also the negative, whatever, converted yield curve, I think, at the time was apparently a good time to enter a swap, but that time may be ending. Chair, has the new finance director got any comments that we wish to pursue the area?
Through the chair, yes. Thank you for that. I met last week in Wellington because I was at the local government funding agency forum, and I met with Miles, who's Bangkok, who we've engaged, and we talked that through. We actually have to set up facilities through Westpac, our core bank, before we can do anything, and we're in the process of doing that right now. There is movements with, due to the re-election, the election in the state, so, but Miles is trying to look at what's best for us, and we'll keep working on that with him. So progress, it's in place, but it's not straightforward. We have to set up our facilities correctly first. So Westpac are working with us on that.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Andy.
Just the boil do. In terms of our under sustainability and our loan positions, as I read the figures at the moment, we've got about 69 million in loans, of which about 38 million of that is associated with Three Waters. Something of that order.
44 million at the moment borrowed.
Sorry.
44 million borrowed at the moment.
My accounting internal.
So internal.
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 Yeah. Internal, I'm guessing. Sorry,
Tom?
through the
Yeah.
chair, so
Yes.
you got that?
Right.
The question, are you trying to understand what will stay with us when we lose when we lose our Three Waters?
Well, exactly that. You know, we're still dealing in absolutely the current time, which is appropriate. But in probably February, March, we're going to be in a position of going out for consultation around independent positions with regional CCOs. So there's a whole lot of series of decisions also around what loans we pass over, including stormwater, including rural water schemes. How and when do we start to tell that story?
Through the chair, so part of the work we're doing now, and I think a workshop is here on the 2nd, on Monday.
Yep.
And we're working through those financials. My understanding from all the conversations I've had in the past with the DIA is that all of our debt that's associated, and we can tag our debt to our assets, so to our Three Waters, will form part of that settlement process. So the assets and the debt and any other liabilities move across, although we may still see the debt sitting in our books because at this stage, we haven't been given direction that we can novate that debt across. We will have the offset asset essentially, so our net debt will change, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My question really is about the timing of that sort of work and being able to tell that sort of story and the decisions that council will have to make literally February.
I think that, yeah, that's a key point, but also critical for the organisation is what stranded overheads or what overheads that are in here that have been currently supported by the Waters. And that's another project that we're working on. In terms of the actual debt, I don't think there's much of an issue because that's easily to identify. But actually pulling what time is spent by a whole lot of us on Three Waters is more difficult. And that gives you a lead-in period, not necessarily of that year, to actually get your organisation more aligned with that, so you're not pumped with overheads that would go directly onto your rates. That's an issue that we're trying to deal with.
I'm just trying to flag publicly, these are the processes that we have to go through, and effectively the clock is ticking.
Everybody understands it. So some of my time, well, Arno's obviously, but a whole lot of people's time is associated with Three Waters. So if you pass all of that over and the people that are working directly over, there are still some internal overheads that have been attributed to water in the past. So then you've got to make a decision as to how you shape the organisation to be able to weather that, and you've got a bit of a time to do it. But if you did nothing, then the balance of those overheads that were sitting in here would go straight onto your rates because there'd be nowhere else that you can attribute them to. And so that is a period you have got a period to work that through. That's what we're trying to do and manage it. And it may be that you can't account for them all, but that will be a political decision as to, and management will give you direction on where we think it's appropriate. If there's any questions, I'm happy to try and ask, because it is quite a key point in some of these negotiations going forward with Three Waters.
Councillor Moore.
I've got a question on that specifically, but
Sure.
just on the loans, and it's awesome spreadsheet, this one that identifies where all the loan money is, internal and external. I'm interested in the halls. We've got $7.2 million of loans to halls. Where does most of that lie? Do we have a breakdown on all which halls the debt's attributed to?
Through
So
the
there's
chair,
halls.
I haven't got that answer right at this
No,
moment.
I-
because it's probably a little bit new on that one, but
Yeah,
we can have a look at that.
seems a
and
lot of
see.
money to have loaned out on halls for some reason. I don't know. Historic stuff.
We'll follow up on that.
Thank you
And how do
very
we report that back at the next meeting?
I can flick you an email. Anyway.
We have a follow-up action. so
Cool.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Any other questions, queries?
No, just from me, in terms, when I'm talking loans, I'm also talking internal loans. And because I noticed the surprise on your face thinking, and it's not quite right, but I'm talking also the internal loans, which will need to be thought about how that is handled as a subset of that.
And we've had in the past assurance from the DIA that internal or external are treated identical. Like all councils, we borrow when we actually need the cash flow as opposed to tranches of debt. So councils across New Zealand use internal loans until they need to borrow more funds and then they externalise it. So we are really careful on tracking that so that we can assign that to the wash up.
Councillor Loudon.
Just going onto the rolling footpaths, you said here that the variance is due to higher than planned maintenance activity. Is that purely the number of maintenance jobs done, or is there a cost increase included in that figure as well? Do you know how that sort of plays out? Are we doing more maintenance, but is it costing more at the same time? Which means we're doing less maintenance.
Do that one.
I think so too, that kind of detail, I'll find it for you, I don't know. off the top of my head.
Second question, you mentioned a couple of times here, overhead recovery budget being set too low. So what does that mean, and has that been the case for a while? And what does that mean overall down the track?
Through the chair, my understanding is the way we do recovery, and while it has no impact on the business, we're going to look at that for our revised to see if we can get that correct. And I can't answer how long it's been like that in the past. I just know what we're dealing with for this year, and we'll correct that so that it flows more accurately moving forward.
Andy.
Yeah, I had to go back to this yet again, but it might be useful if the council had some form of resolution fairly early on in terms of rural water schemes, that those assets would not transfer.
Through the chair, I'm not sure we have that.
I don't think it's really clear from the government yet. Is that what you're saying, or how they're treated?
As I understand it, that we face the option of transferring those loans and assets. But I think the earlier that we could get confirmation on that, the better.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I wonder if it's worth asking if we can cover that in Monday's workshop on the local water done well with Brent and Michael in the head.
Flag that as an upcoming decision, active decision.
Okay, so do I have a move in a second for that report, please? Councillor Carter? Your worship. Andy, seconding, all in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to page 31. Item 9.2, the QV report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the monthly report from QV, the dashboard with updated information.
Any questions? Standard report. I'm familiar with it. Okay, then can I please hear?
Just add on that one, I don't know whether you've had more, but we have had some objections raised after the event from QV that we're processing. So there have been some that do appear wildly different to what they should be, and we're working our way through some of those as in individual cases. The people weren't aware or didn't challenge them as they came through.
Yeah.
But there is a process that people can follow, so just clearing that.
I think that it has come up in a previous, what sort of numbers are we talking?
I only know of one because
Right.
but there might be more.
Right.
The ones, in the previous ones have been dealt with, there's just one outstanding.
Right.
There's one still outstanding.
Okay, thank you. No further questions or move the receipt of this report. I think I'll move that. Seconded, please. Councillor Wong, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 9.3 is the statement of performance service provision 3-month report, July 2024 to September 2024. Welcome to the table.
Thank you. So this report just shows you how we're tracking for the first 3 months of the year. Happy to take any questions on this report.
Again, the report we're all familiar with. Still some red dots there, but looking through those. Councillor Wilson.
One of, from me, possibly through you, Chair, to Arno. So areas for improvement, item 4.3, it's noted 2 infringement notices with regards to wastewater treatment. Now, I'm very aware, as I'm sure the rest of the committee is, that these can be varying different degrees of infringement from quite minor. Is there anything in concern of those 2 infringement notices? Have they been addressed? Is there anything further pending from?
So it's the same problems. It's not anything out of the norm. We find with Horizons over the last 12 months, they are very strict on us. And I think it is to make sure that we don't take our foot off the gas with multiples, which is a fair position. We are dealing with them in the best way we can. So we've got Mel and the team now looking at how we can do better in that space. And we're working very closely with Horizons to get that done. So we're gonna do as well as we can with what we've got until we get to a place where we've got new consents in place. Thank you.
Just acknowledging typo in that 4.3. It's the Martins. On the second line, it's Martin wastewater treatment plant, I believe. Your worship.
Just in terms of water supply. So these are largely tagged against RFS requests. So at the moment, there's a huge amount of discussion in the community about water quality for Martin. Facebook, councillors being approached, me being approached, etc., etc. How do we tally that with this?
This is purely based off of requests that have clicked through formally to council. It doesn't take into account what's being posted on Facebook.
So just to clarify, so any call, regardless of whether it's a complaint or a comment around water, has to be covered, has to be, if it's taken over the phone, has to be lodged as an RFS. And that was an audit request to us a few years ago. So we try and encourage people, if they are saying something over Facebook, that they actually ring it through as an RFS. So it's captured in that way. But yeah, like Jana said, we can't use every single comment as a RFS unless they use our formal channels. But as soon as they ring in formally, it has to be lodged as an RFS.
Yeah, and that's my concern. So at the moment, we're getting a huge amount of noise and around this. And yes, it's a seasonal issue, but there should be some way of, even if it's our comms department saying, putting a note and saying there has been this amount of traffic.
So I think Sophia's in the room, so she'll take that on board and remind people the correct thing to do if they actually want to make a complaint for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the information we put out on Facebook is worthwhile because we're acknowledging that there's an issue there, but what we don't capture are all the comments, so we'll remind people to actually go through the channels to.
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting is can comms put in almost like an RFS on the basis of we have received so many comments on Facebook and social media platforms within the last 48 hours.
Comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just quickly, on page 42, there is a specific measure for customer satisfaction. That normally is red, but we have to remember this is the first 3 months of the year. Only covers up until when the water was still tasting well. I'm sure when you see the next report, that will be red. It normally is red. This normally happens middle to end of January, so it's really early this year. As for all the other comments, I take on board what the mayor's saying. It's I think an impossible task to know how many comments there are on all the different platforms. I think what we get through the system will be high anyway, and we'll reflect that in the next report.
And just to further to that, the DIA are very clear that each complaint is lodged. So comms couldn't say we've had 14 complaints because DIA would come back to us and say, you need to document each 14 of those. Because we had tried that in the past, along with other councils, and it wasn't an acceptable way to do it.
So just through you, Madam Chair, although this is the formal report, are you suggesting that we just tag as to, so that councillors are aware of what's coming through on social media, which wouldn't form part of the formal reporting?
I'd be certainly accepting of that, but I think somewhere we have to recognise that we have a significant interest in the community. And yes, we are spending a lot of money and there is a time frame to fix it, but that's the issue at the moment.
I just suggest we do that through the comms reporting. That's further down in the agenda item. We can certainly do that as a key item that comes up rather than this, which has a different purpose.
Councillor Moore?
The thing that concerns me about this, the whole water thing is, whatever, 2 or 3 years we've been pushing the, Martin water strategy, and the general public don't know a hell of a lot about it. Are we getting our comms right? And that's exactly what the council's trying to do with the Martin water. That's my question, because this message doesn't seem to be getting through.
New personnel here.
I think Sophie.
Or do we need to have another push at
Sophie's got
communicating
some
what's happening?
ideas that she's talking to us about trying to push and hook on now, because you've got the conflict coming in about what the service is providing, but I don't know whether you want to talk about them generically yet, or. So the answer to you is yes, we're going to have another push now, just how we do that. Sophie's got some new ideas that are fresh and involve the community and participating and stuff like that. So I don't know whether Sophie went with anyone, just talk generically about some of what you're thinking of.
Would you rather, we can talk about it now, through your chair, or we could talk about it in the report, our report that's coming up at the next agenda item, I think. If that's
Okay, we'll leave it to then. We've got a
Yes,
few queries from the table. Councillor Wilson.
Just to say, yes, we have been talking about the Martin Water strategy for a number of years. We've constantly referred back to it, but we must remember through the social media platforms, our comms team have been directing people to links. There has been a very good video clip just done clearly explaining what the issues are. And we've been very, very vigilant in that space. And you know, yes, we have to do it again and again and again and again, then we should. But we are putting the message out there. Sometimes people don't like to hear the message that's been given. And that's a sad reality of fact. But we are sending it out there. And I believe our comms team have been very proactive around this immediate issue as it presented itself, to the extent that it has 3 to 4 weeks ago. We're constantly in that space and we continue to send the message out there. And if we have to keep sending it, we'll keep sending it. But the message has been sent. Sometimes people don't like the message that's
I
been sent.
believe marketers would say you've got to hear something 7 times before you get an action. So let's.
That's pretty much what I'm saying.
Councillor Loudon.
I'm a bit old fashioned. I read the paper and I thought the columns in the paper regarding the water and why it's tasting like it is, the district monitor this week was very good. Well, last week was very good. And I thought that was, if people wanted to actually understand it and read it, I thought it was very good. So well done to comms.
Awesome. Councillor Carter.
Page 40. Regarding our water consumption of 600 litres per resident per day. Is this figure produced by what we provide in our water systems divided by a population, giving us that number? Because I don't believe I use 600 litres of water a day. And according to my meter at home, I don't.
Through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Carter is correct. It's the only way for us to set a level of service is to use a simple way of doing it. But rolled up in that would be losses, rolled up in that will be commercial use and some industrial use. It's just a way to reflect where it's sitting. But it's a lot more complex than we say everybody is using 600 litres per day. It's not like that.
So 100 litres would be more appropriate number.
No, actually, about 2-3 years ago, we did quite a detailed analysis of that because the number is so high. So on engineering design, the standard number that we use is 250 litres per person per day. So for us, it's 600, it's really high. When we remove all the commercial and industrial use out of that, it came down to about 400 litres per person per day. So it is still really high. And it is work that we will be looking at in a lot more detail with the new plant as part of the work that we're going to do on the network. So we want to see where the leaks are, what's driving it, how much of that we can remove, and then we need to look at the people's behavior and how much water they're actually using. So that work is coming shortly.
It's interesting to note that in the Mayor's report on rural and provincial, there was a whole part of the presentation on use of water meters. And in the case of Hastings District Council, they found the cost of putting the water meters in as a direct cost to council was break even. It may be a very slight profit. So that's directly the saving for councils is on, because demand goes down, you're not treating as much water, etc., etc. But it was interesting that they found that whole exercise, putting those meters in, it appears to be around break-even position.
No further queries. I'll move that receipt of that report. Seconder, please. Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Against, carried, thank you. Item 9.4, which is our public feedback performance report for October 2024. Welcome to the table, Sophia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Take the report as received and read. Happy to answer any questions, but I will, if I may, provide that overview about the Martin Water strategy. Unfortunately, it's not the sentiment we've been receiving over the last few weeks isn't fully captured in this report because this report takes into account the timeline for October. And as His Worship the Mayor rightly pointed out, we've started receiving quite a substantial amount of feedback, as you would have all seen in the last sort of those first couple of weeks of November. Absolutely, everyone's point is 100% correct. Marketers will definitely say, Madam Chair, that people need to see things 7 times in order for it to sink in. We have a number of communications channels available to us, which I think often it's the consistent messaging constantly that really helps to kind of settle it in. But at the end of the day, the news that we're telling is not a good news story in this instance. And so rather than kind of leaning into the not good news story, we're trying to lean into that education piece, as you would have seen through the paper and social media that Ben has fantastically done. But absolutely, regardless of all of that, the feedback is not amazing. And Ben has been doing a fantastic job and has fielded quite a lot of negative feedback through the Facebook channel, some of which directed directly at him, which is really unfortunate to see. But his ability to manage that, I think, has been absolutely fantastic. So I really want to commend him at the table for all his work in that space. In addition to that, there's a number of initiatives that we've kind of been working through as a team as to kind of how we can continue to educate and that consistent messaging, but also providing a little bit of sympathy, goodwill, whether that might be a water truck, whether that could be some way that we can kind of facilitate through the grocery stores, water they can access. We're not at the Memorial Hall, so how can we kind of lift that a little bit more and try and encourage people down there? There's people that can't access the water down at the Memorial Hall with some of the feedback we're getting, and so how can we maybe facilitate that internally? But also recognising the cost constraints that we're under as well. So we've been doing quite a lot of work in this space, and we'll provide an update as soon as we have one, once working through ELT and then yourselves. I hope that helps answer some questions. I'm happy to take them.
Councillor Moore, have you got some ideas of what else you'd like to be seen?
I'm not very.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Spear, appreciate that. I think the first thing that we all should acknowledge, no one sitting around this table thinks that the Martin water quality is good. Let's all be pretty honest and open about that fact. All of us sitting around this table also acknowledge that the issue has been going on for the last 50 years. And it should have been dealt with years ago. We all are in agreement with that. Nobody's going to argue about that. The reality of it is we have a strategy in place that we're now working through to get to the point where we're dealing with it. It's just, it's certainly a little unfortunate this incident has come early and it come quite as strong as it has in the middle of us trying to fix the issue and getting to the end. I guess the question that I've got is two questions, largely for the CE. It had been indicated that there may be some form of an open day that we could further educate our residents about not only what the issues are that we have that we're trying to fix and to a certain extent how far they go back, but also the significant amount of work and that the team is doing to actually rectify that. And we should be acknowledging that. So is that still something that we're working to? It's a difficult one, I know. Is there a strategy we're working towards?
So through you, Madam Chair, the program for that is in the new year.
Okay, thank you.
And to have it on site. And so I know it's not very exciting, but you'll be actually able to see the walk.
Yeah.
And also you'll be able to see the lakes and good work that's been done down there. So that's the program. What we are focused on right at the moment, or what Sophie and the team is focused on, is what can we do now? And so one of the pushbacks that we've had is Memorial Halls, not everybody is able to get to that very easy. And one of the thoughts we've had is whether we should be either offering the distribution of drinking water in some way. And there's been a pushback with that, as you don't want to create a mountain of plastic either. And so the thought was is maybe we could investigate a water truck going around the street that people could take their containers out. So low cost, but gives the ability for some of those taxis. This isn't my idea either. You know, I've got no So it's coming from the team about innovative ways that are cost effective in providing an actual service to those that can't get it and are forced to use the water on supply. So two-pronged attack, one now and the other one is being planned for when the weather's fine. And you can actually see the new bores, although not that exciting to see for most of us, but again, it's still where the money's been invested.
You're not going to see 490 metres down to where the water's coming from, sadly. All you're going to see is the bellhead. Further question, if I may, to Mr. Bernardi, is what's your feeling on the long-term scenario of the issue we're facing now? I know your team is working very hard up there to try and alleviate the odour and taste that we're getting at the moment. Are we looking at a longer term thing here, or do you think that your team is starting to manage the algal bloom that's causing this issue at the moment?
To you, Madam Chair, yeah, it's interesting. We've learned lessons over the years, and we've got strategies in place that we normally start to prepare for January. What really caught us out this year, it happened in November, which is really early, and it kind of raises the flag on how difficult it is to predict what those open dams are going to do in different times of the year. So I've caught up with teams over the last 2 or 3 weeks, every week, to be sure, first of all, that we test everything to be sure the water is safe. So although it tastes and it smells terrible at the moment, it is still safe to drink. So that's tick number one. And then number two, we've got a range of things that we normally would have done middle of December that we're doing now to kind of catch up and to get on top of it. And hopefully once we've got all those things in place now, we'll be pretty good for the rest of summer.
Finally, one more comment, if I may, through to Sophia. Please pass certainly my thanks on to Ben and your comms team. It's a difficult space to work in. And I certainly appreciate the work that he does on behalf of us, the council, to get that message out and consistently getting that message out in what is a difficult time for the community as a whole with regards to water. So please pass my thanks on.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Moore.
This is a tongue-in-cheek comment based on the comments in the report about a complaint about water on the 15th of November. Action taken, feedback passed on to the water team, and I know this will be a tight fix, but the next one, comment water, on the 17th of November, feedback was passed on to the cleaning team. Is it a strategy? No, sorry. Couldn't resist.
I saw that too.
So maybe that needs to be changed before.
Councillor Loudon.
Great report. Thank you very much. It's good seeing all this information. I was particularly enjoyed page 55, the Instagram photograph. And I would suggest that Leanne, he possibly had a laugh of Martin Water. I thought it'd be a great photograph for a caption competition.
I enjoyed the video. Councillor.
Just a little bit concerned about the comment about the Bulls public toilets, absolutely disgusting toilets. These are the toilets that everybody calls in round sea, so wonder what was wrong.
Well, can I just answer that? I think they generally have a really high rate of approval, but the reality is if one person has been not helpful in using them, then we need that information before the next person comes in, and sometimes you don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at it overall, they generally have a really high standard, and the one-offs, until you're told, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because they have a regular check anyway, so it's not one that's usually on our radar.
But that's surprising, yeah.
Except if I may, I think you might find that's aimed at the Ringatiki Junction toilets, not the council toilets. Ringatiki Junction is the BP, are the mobile.
Still on our agenda.
Yes.
Which is not our jurisdiction, it's up to the contractor who looks after the Ringatiki Junction.
Have we still service them?
That's what I thought as well.
Don't believe so.
You're talking the BP ones?
Yeah.
Sure,
I'm sure we do.
we do.
Yeah, we do. Joe's confirming. But we keep that contract.
We have a term of contract that still has quite some way to go with regard to that.
There's usually a moan, if I may, regarding the rubbish. With not enough rubbish receptacles, because everyone comes there and empties their cars out into the rubbish bins. And we have asked of the owners to provide more, at which they won't. I believe there's enough there for the service, so that's another big one that's complained about, is the amount of rubbish left lying around the place. Because the bins are already full.
That's no, councillor, that's correct, yeah, this is.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I too thoroughly enjoyed your report and please pass that on to your team. Just interested that the youth headquarters, is that operating out of the library? I just wasn't sure where that.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, it is. It's operating out of Martin Library.
Right.
We have a side entrance as well as they can come through the library down the hallway past the ICT hub. Yeah.
Thank you, I love those stories, yeah. And no more queries? I'm happy to move receipt of that report. A seconder, please. Councillor Wilson, all those in favour? Against, carried. And that is the conclusion of our meeting, I believe. So thank you very much, everyone online, and maybe we'll see you this afternoon at full council.